Hi there, friends. So I'm going to try something a little bit different this time. I'm going to answer one of the questions that you sent me. I got a question from my notes here. Ellioth Hedström, which I believe is Swedish or Danish, perhaps. And the question was, what is the future of classic Legos? And do we still see that style, that 4-wide scale that I talked about in the video last week, being something that Lego might go back to? Well, of course, we know that Lego has done a lot of changes over the years. They had really intricate sets using classic vintage style construction back in the late 80s and the early 90s, which is what our town is primarily focused on. And then they branched out into these really elaborate, very large buildings that had all kinds of detail and architectural features, and they're amazing, but they're also very, very expensive. And then somewhere in there in the late 90s, they made really chintzy sets that were very simple, very much specialized pieces. Like a car would basically be one piece and things like that. And we kind of call that the dark ages in my household here. So what is Lego doing now is kind of the question. And I think that they're kind of getting back in touch with their roots, but I also think that they're skewing a little bit toward the dark ages. So bear with me. I have some visual aids here which we'll go through to illustrate my point. So are they going back to sort of the 4-wide scale? In their vehicles, no. However, if I can pull this up here, this is one of their new sets, which I can't remember the number now. I just had it. Well, anyway, it's 60204. This is 60204. It was 2018 that this came out. And you'll note that it's got some of that 4-wide architecture in that the building itself is quite, it's a modular building, but the details and the overall scale of it would fit on a classic Lego road plate. You would sit on a corner, but it would fit. Well, the helicopter is stupid in this particular set. But the overall detailing and the basic scale of it is very much in the classic vein. Oh, that's me with the cat last night. That's not what you wanted to see. Okay, so, and here it is stripped of all of the accessories and stuff, and you can really see the size of it. So like this ambulance bay is 6 studs wide. Well, if you figure that the classic style Lego building is maybe 6 deep, this is pretty much the same scale. And if you wrapped this around a corner, which if you can see on here, if you wrap that on the corner of a block, it would totally fit because each of these modular sections is the same general size and width of what a traditional Lego set would be, that classic style. So at least as of 2018, this particular set still followed that scale. But of course, the outlier in this set is the ambulance. Now, that ambulance is 6 wide plus the mirrors, so it's an 8 wide ambulance. Well, that does not scale with classic road plates. Here's a classic ambulance. This is what we have in our town as the oldest ambulance, I guess. And it's been modified slightly. You know, we added some additional lights on it and clear headlights, and we've got like the push bar, some exhaust pipes on the back, and additional antennas and whatnot on top to make it look a little cooler. And this has a modern stretcher in it, not the original stretcher that came with this set. And, well, obviously it's got a medical kit in there too. But it fits a stretcher in there, complete with a minifig on there. It's got a minifig driver. It's really all you need for the purposes of having an ambulance. Now, it is not nearly as cool looking as that, and I will admit it. But when you consider the size of a classic Lego road plate, there we go, we get that about right, yeah. This just fits better, and it doesn't change this doesn't do anything that this doesn't do, is I guess kind of my point. So in regards to the hospital set, they kind of were going back to the roots in the style of the building, but the style of the vehicle was very much in their modern thing. Now, continuing through, another recent set, which I think they've done this well, is a city center set. It's 60271. You probably see this in stores now, depending where you live. And there's really only 2 buildings in this set, but the cool thing about both buildings is they're sort of in that classic style as far as the scale is concerned. but let me show you while we're on vehicles. So this is the limo that comes with that set. Now it is a 4-wide limo. It's kind of in a modern style. It's a little garish with the colors, with the gold and the black, but whatever. But it's really not all that different from the limo that we use in our town for our mayor. I don't know if their limo is for a mayor or not, but see, he's got a computer in there. Let me look at our limo. He's got a computer in there. Granted, it's kind of an old school computer with a big monitor and everything, whereas in the new limo, he's got a flat panel. But what are you going to do? But the point is that this kind of is sort of returning to that same size. These probably aren't all that different in size, really. And it would fit, it's maybe a little too long, but it would more or less fit in a regular town. Another part of that set is this diner, which is, again, it's got curved windows and stuff, but it's very close to the snack bar that we have by our beach as far as the overall size. You could put this in our town and it would fit, even though it's a newer set. And then we have the tram. Now, it makes sense for the tram. Here it's obviously with the cab removed. It makes sense for a tram to be a little bit bigger. I gotta remember where to look. That a tram should be a little bit bigger than a bus or something like that. That kind of makes sense. So I'm okay with this being a little wider than a bus would be. But I will say that as far as its use in the set goes, if I scroll forward here, you know, they show it on the box being on tracks, but there's no track set that I'm aware of. This is really just a tram that's meant to roam around in the streets, which if you're going to have a tram roaming around in the streets, use a bus. I don't know. I think it's a little bit odd. Now, the one building that is in the set is this, which is the town hall. Now, I think this is actually a really cool building. If I can get it to zoom in on here. Here we go. It's got that classic style as far as a lot of very simple pieces. It's not overly architectural. The length of the building isn't like crazy big. It's wider maybe than a typical building would be, but this is the city hall after all, so that's kind of okay. It's a height-wise, it's basically a 2.5-story building with this bit on the top. I think that's fine too. But what's really revealing about it is how wide it is. I mean, how deep the building is. Again, thinking about that classic style, the classic size, the scale of a classic city being 4 wide cars, this building is a pretty reasonable depth. And you could put this in a classic scaled town and it would be all right. Now, one thing I think is a little bit weird is you do have the mayor's office here in the top, which our mayor has his office in the police station. And then this bottom floor is just like a random trophy case with the city key in it and then literally trophies, which I think is kind of odd. I think if we were to take this building and put this in our town, it would fit as far as the size of it goes, which is what, you know, kind of goes back to the question of can you do 4 wide Lego? But would we keep this bottom floor the same? I don't think so. I think we'd probably change that into like a library or offices or something like that. This is just, it's just strange. So, you know, it's kind of like they ran out of ideas when they were making the set. They're like, well, we put the mayor on the second floor. What do we do with the other? I don't know. Stick trophies in there. All right, now the real, I guess, proof of my position that Lego is somewhat returning to their roots is the very newly released set. It's called it's the Harry Potter Diagon Alley 75978. Now, if you haven't heard about this set and you're following Lego, then you would have heard about this set. It's hugely expensive. I think it's like $400 or something like that. But what's cool about it is every single one of these buildings is scaled to that classic size, meaning they're about, you know, 8 studs, maybe 10 if you can count some of the signs and stuff deep, and they are, you know, the same height, the same facade sort of details and stuff. Like, you really could take this street, forget the Harry Potter thing, you could take this street if you wanted to, or rebuild these buildings and put them in a classic Lego town, and they would totally fit in, at least as far as size goes. Now, they do have some architectural details that are kind of, you know, not quite classic, but they're really not that complicated. So you could adapt these techniques even to a classic building and it would still fit. It would still look right. And what's neat about these, so here's a close-up of one of them. You can find pictures for these sets online. I'm not going to bore you with a whole bunch of those, but the interiors on this set are actually really impressive. And I have to say that they crammed a lot into a small space, especially the staircases. The staircases are kind of surprising to me. I mean, traditional classic style Lego buildings, they just sort of float from floor to floor. But these mostly have staircases in them. And again, the interior detail is really, really cool. And it's, you know, the same sort of size as what we have in our town. This one has 3 levels jammed in there with this like library sort of thing, you know, all the way up. Or is it potions? I think this might be the potion shop. I forget. That's the weird part of the alley. Yeah. And again, another staircase. This one even has a turn in it. So these sets are, in my mind, in that classic style as far as the height of the building, the depth of the building, the detail on it. It's not overly wrought, it's not overly fancy, but it's very much like a classic building brought into the modern age. They're using pieces that are common. There's not a lot of specialty pieces. So to answer the question of is there a future of this classic Lego style? Yeah, I think there's somebody in Lego who sees that and is trying to, you know, return to that. And I'll just show you one more set. This is also a new set. It is 60203, and it's a ski resort. Now this is kind of one of these weird sort of, like, how do you have a ski resort in the middle of a city? It's, you know, usually they're like up on a mountain somewhere. And if you have snowmobiles running down Main Street, isn't that kind of weird to then have like a beach and stuff like that? But whatever. Lego and their themes are not always particularly sensical. But if we strip away the box trappings and you just look at the set, the depth of the building is in that classic style. Forget about the snow coming off the roof, but the basic structure is fairly simple. It's got enough detail and enough character to it, but it's not overly done. It's the correct height to fit in a classic-sized town or scaled town. And really, this could be a set from, you know, 20 years ago, and it would be cool. And then the same thing on the inside. There we go. If I could figure out how to share screens, this would be a lot slicker, but we're going to try to do this in one take because that's kind of the most efficient thing for me to do. And, you know, I'm not screwing around with editing. You're getting me like minimal prep. So the inside, again, it's got a lot of clever details in it. It's got a little medical place here for people to get hurt. And, you know, I guess that's the ski patrol office and who knows what all they do. But the point is that this is scaled and very much in the style and the tradition of that classic vintage Lego town. And this is a brand new set. So somebody at Lego is paying attention and is kind of going back to the good old days. Now, having said that, they aren't all doing it. And I'm going to show you 2 sets that I think go against what I'm suggesting and are basically, and these are also new sets. They're on the Lego website. And these sets are very much in the style of the Dark Ages, as we call it in my household. So the first one of those is, oh my gosh, another police station, right? 60246. Now, police is always a big theme with Lego. But if you look at this, you go, okay, fine. It doesn't look anything unusual. The buildings are skinny. Isn't that what you want? You want these old skinny, narrow buildings? Not really, because here's where it falls apart is it's gigantic pieces. I mean, we're talking like this wall is 2 pieces. That's it. If we strip this away from the box art and we go to the actual structure, again, we're just using, I mean, each floor is maybe 6 pieces, 2 windows, and like some window frames. That's it. You can't build anything else out of these pieces. That's it. That's all you can build. Now, in a classic Lego building, and I think if you look at the Harry Potter ones, for example, in that set, you know, each one of these layers is a layer of bricks. So when you break this down, you literally have a pile of bricks. When you break this down, you have a stack of wall pieces. It's very, very different. You can't really make anything else out of this building except for this building. That's it. And I would say the hospital set is sort of like that also, but because of the sheer size of that set, I think it's a little bit more configurable. But anyway, so that's part of the problem. The real problem is when you get down, and here is the mistake that I think that happens with modern Lego set, is the size of the vehicles has gotten larger and larger, but in order to keep the price of the sets down, the buildings get simpler and smaller. And so you end up with a police, well, I don't know what this is, a Bronco, is a Jeep, whatever this is, that is, the footprint of this vehicle is bigger than the entire police station's footprint. I mean, that's kind of, I know we're not going to be super realistic. We're talking about Lego. We're talking about things that come apart in little pieces, but that's just odd to me. And another example that would be, you know, the motorcycle's one big piece, basically. It's just kind of strange. So another set, it's also currently a new set, and I'm sure lots of people love this set. It's a fire set. It's 60216. All right, here it is. You go, oh, look, that's cool. It's got an awesome fire engine in it, and it's got a 3-story building. The building looks to be the right size and everything, right? Yeah, I know it does. But let me explain. We'll strip it down. You go see how far I'm going here. Yes, we'll strip it down to the component parts. Here we go. Here's what it looks like. Do you see what I'm talking about? Look at the size of the building and look at the size of the fire truck. It's massive. The building, teeny tiny. Big, huge fire truck. And the building is supposed to be burning, so I don't expect a lot of detail in the building, and they have obliged by not putting a lot of detail in the building. You could finish this off, add some glass and things like that. And I suppose if you did that, you would end up with a building that's kind of in a classic style, sort of vintage looking, and that would be okay. But then you have this fire truck, which is just huge. I mean, it's gigantic. In fact, this fire truck is so wide, it is about, well, when you add in the outriggers and stuff, it's about 10 studs wide. It is so wide that when we go to their little setup here, the truck has another vehicle in it. It actually has a garage built in for what I guess is a firefighting drone. Is that a thing? I'm not really sure. And then, well, this is kind of odd. Is this a cross? No, I'm just kidding. Looks like a cross. Part of the building falling off, apparently. Just happened to land that way. But the fire truck is gigantic. It is super huge. Now, I don't have a ladder truck that I can show you. I mean, we have ladder trucks in town, but this is this is what they're using, and this is the closest what we have. I'll take this down so it'll brighten back up again. I think that the iPad throws off the exposure, but it's the only visual aid I got. So here's a classic sized fire truck. Again, slight modifications. We've added some lights. We've changed a few things around. The guys that ride on the side here, they just have to hang on for dear life because they don't have grab bars or anything. And I think that this back has been modified. There's like a gauge on there. I don't know if you can see it, but the seat has gone missing. I don't know where the seat went. And we've added a few, like little, I don't know, they come in and see this little sticker on there. It says fire and stuff like that. A few very, very, very subtle changes. Oh, while I have it here, I'll point out that on the side here, what number is that anyway? 7. All of our trucks are numbered. So this is truck 7, which I'm doing this in selfie mode, so it may not look like 7 to you, but it's actually 7. And so yeah, that you would be right in guessing that there are 6 other trucks. In fact, I think we might have 10 trucks. We have at least 9, I think, because of course fire and police are the most common sets. But is this as impressive, you know, as the big fancy truck? You know, yeah, probably not. But well, first of all, our buildings are a lot smaller, so this is plenty high to get up into those buildings. And we do have the other ladder trucks. This also has outriggers on it. So I guess if you add in our outriggers, we're looking at about 6 wide. But 6 wide is kind of okay on a classic plate. Like I said, when we use our buses and stuff, in the other video I did, when we use our buses, the buses are technically 6 wide. They're 4 wide plus the fenders that we have on them. And same thing with some of the trucks. So you can really get away with 6 wide and still be in that classic style. It just gives a sense of mass to the vehicle, make it feel a little bit bigger than it actually is to have that wider thing. But that's, you know, that's a very different approach than the current Lego approach, which is to actually just make it massive, especially compared to the building. I mean, again, the footprint of this fire engine versus the building is huge. It's hugely, it's bigly different. So I'll go one more time through my notes to make sure I didn't miss any points, because I wrote some of my thoughts down earlier. But basically, to answer the question, Lego is kind of going back to their roots in some regards, in that they're scaling down their buildings and things like that, which I think is important, because then you're able to get a whole town and a lot of variety of buildings and a lot of diversity of buildings, which of course, for the sake of, you know, the kids playing with the town, you're able to have more stories, because it's not just fire, it's not just police and hospitals, but you have businesses and hotels and apartment buildings and commercial buildings and office buildings and all of the things that a real city would have, but you're not taking up the entirety of your house to do it. Now, we have a fairly large Lego town. I am aware of that, probably larger than most. But the advantage of the classic style is that it doesn't take up as much space as if you were to do it with a modern style of building, which Lego has been gravitating toward, with these modular buildings that are, you know, they're huge compared to our buildings, which are the footprint. I'm talking about how much space they take up. You know, the new ones are about that big. Ours are about that big. And then when you add in the size of the cars, the size of the streets, and all of that, it's just not realistic to think that you can get that kind of variety into a Lego town. So that's why I think our town, our scale, the classic style really, really works. And I'm glad to see Legos returning to it, because it gives you so much more flexibility in what you end up having. So, having said that, let me look through my notes and make sure I got it all. Oh, the other advantage of having the more simple buildings is that they're cheaper. If you look at the price of a set that has, you know, I'd have to look at maybe the ski resort compared to like the Harry Potters. Well, the Harry Potters get the licensing in, but when you look at those modular sets, the really elaborate buildings, I think they're somewhere around $100 to $150 each. And the other sets usually had, I'm talking about the old sets like we have, would have like maybe one vehicle, a couple minifigs in a building, and they were maybe, I don't know, $30, something like that. I picked up one recently off eBay. I won't tell you what it is because it's a surprise, but I think it was like $25. And it's a, you know, classic style building. That'll have to come out later what that is. So they're more affordable. Now the other advantage too is that, you know, you can break those buildings down into their individual pieces, and those pieces can be used for other things. Whereas when they're building with like huge wall sections, it's only ever going to be a wall. It's not going to be anything else. Let's see. Yeah, the back end on the limo, the one that comes with that 60271 main square set, the back of that is weird. Just is. I won't say that the back of ours is like super elegant. You know, the tinted windows though, right? Yeah. But it's less weird. It's kind of Maybach-ish. At least that was the idea back at the time. Let's see. The tram is cool. I said, yeah. If they had a way of putting tracks into the streets, that would make more sense. But they don't have tracks, and if you look at the size of the intersections, or of the, yeah, as much as that tram can bend, you wouldn't be able to run that around on classic Lego plates anyway. It just doesn't bend enough. Maybe it does on the modern ones, but once you get to that point of just driving a tram on the street, we'll just make it a bus. Just have a bus. Buses are more common anyway. I know a tram is kind of cool, but it seems like a weird way for them to go. Let's see, everything, yeah, a lot. So in that City Hall, that Main Street set is $200, which is kind of a lot considering that you're really getting two buildings out of it, just the City Hall and the diner, and then some other weird stuff like the tram and whatnot. It's pretty expensive. And yeah, so that's basically, that's my short answer to the question of, is Lego, where do I see the future of classic Lego? I think that there's somebody in Lego that is looking at these older sets and is recognizing that a way to bring down the price per set, but also increase the ability to build a city that has the diversity of stories that can be told, because you can have all these different locations and stuff. I feel like somebody must be on that track, because they seem to be very deliberately sizing some of their sets kind of down, making the building details a lot more intricate. Like the interior of that hospital is actually really impressive considering the size of the set. And but at the same time, then we have like that police station, which is just horrible. It's just bad. You know, it's very simple, like to a fault, and it's made out of very few pieces. I mean, it could be built by a toddler. It's so uninteresting. And the interior is just, you know, oh, coffee cups, because cops like coffee. Yeah, all right. You know, I wish that there was, one other thing I was going to mention, and I kind of have both things going on here. So one of the criticisms I saw, and some of those pictures are taken off a website called The Brothers Brick, which is a great website. And I just saved the pictures onto the iPad so I could display them, because if you try to do it on the iPad as a display, all you get is Google ads, which is a horrible experience. So that's why I used their pictures. And they criticized the hospital set having so many stickers, and it does. The size of the sticker sheet involved is ridiculous. And Lego stickers on new sets, not very good in my experience. They tend to, they don't tend to adhere very well, even if you clean off the pieces with alcohol, which you should be doing anyway. Get those like alcohol wipes. Everybody's got them now because of the coronavirus. And if you're going to put a sticker on something, you want to wipe down that side, get all the oils from your fingers out of it, and then put the stickers on one time. Don't try and move them. But even so, there shouldn't be that many stickers. And as a comparison, you know, this is an old, everything wants to come out when I handle it. This is an old set, but these are printed on. These aren't stickers. This is actually printed on the piece. The red stripes and because this is one piece. This isn't like, you know, a 1x6 or a 1x4. This is actually a panel. The stripe and the cross are printed on. Now, when they did have stickers in the old days, and this is a sticker, and these are stickers, these here, they stuck. Like the fire emblems on these doors are probably, well, they're probably close to 30 years old. And they are perfect. The grill is a sticker on this. Let me see that. That's not like, that's actually just a sticker on a 1x2 brick. But, I mean, they stick like you wouldn't believe. I think the only one that is looking loose is this one. And I think that's because it was taken apart, or this piece has been knocked off a few times, and it has taken that sticker with it a little bit. But even so, it's still on there pretty good. Well, the new Lego stickers just don't seem to hold up very well, and they don't seem to be as interested in molding actual colors into the piece. Like these are, you know, two colors. In fact, I'll just be a little violent here. I just will show you this. So this is how the original ambulance side was. There's the back side of it. But it's not a sticker. It's not, it's like printed on the piece. And so this is the other side, with the back window. But it's a clear piece. If you look at it on the back, it's clear. Not a sticker. It's printed right on the piece, like some kind of screen printing or something like that. And that's how they used to do it. And of course, that's held up very, very well. This is what happens if you park your ambulance on the train tracks, by the way. So, although it's a lot easier to get the stretcher back in. So is there a future for 4 wide? I really hope so. I really hope Lego's coming back to that. And I'm hoping that the sets that we're seeing that are not very good about it are ones that are outgoing sets. Like maybe they're already into production and things like that. And they're like, yeah, we'll finish out the run. And that what we're going to be seeing going forward will be more like the ski resort in the hospital And, well, the Harry Potter sets are pretty impressive, although also very expensive. And, yeah. So there's enough of me rambling on. Like, share, subscribe, all those things. And thank you for making it all the way to the end, if you made it to the end. And I look forward to talking more of these detailed Lego design things in the future. But probably the next video will be a tour of one of the buildings, because I have to figure out how to get my light set up, and then I can do that for you. But that probably will be next. Also a request that somebody made. So Ellioth Hedström, I hope that is a thorough answer for you. And if anybody else has questions or comments, add them on there, and we'll talk about it. Thank you. See you later, friends.